in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
Back in June 2005, I took a great deal of grief from the readers at Chattanoogan.com, having posted a press release that I had suggested might be usable by our county clerk, Bill Knowles, who was facing at the time the pending ruling out of the federal judiciary in Washington, the highest part of that division in the country, the federal Supreme Court. A decision called Obergefell versus Hodges, which was promising to overturn all American law and change it into an egalitarian system, again, top down, rule by opinion, law by opinion, one that pretended to have the power, and in fact, I think did practically have the power to vacate across the country in many of the 50 states provisions that defined marriage as between one man and one woman. There were 7 responses that came to this press release, and you can click it if you want to go to our Facebook page, Chattanooga Radio. Click the link. I just posted it there from Chattanoogan.com from June 2015. And I, in my argument, in which I have Mr. Bill Knowles, our venerable county clerk, defend the Constitution and defend the meaning of his oath of office before God. I am laughed at and scorned and ridiculed. And one writer named Rob Smith says, he is not a Johnny-come-lately whose character must be proven. He's a fixture in local government because his integrity and leadership earn him repeat trips to the clerk's office. He is not county clerk by accident. And the electorate has not fallen asleep at the ballot box. He's a great leader with an A-plus track record, and Hamilton Countyans know it. And he, again, in the most recent election, Bill Knowles obtained, or should I say, retained his high office as record keeper and issuer of numerous licenses. As he told me Tuesday at the swearing in, it is his 12th 4-year term. And he said to me, I'm starting my 45th year today. And I think somehow that Mr. Knowles has not heard anything about the controversy about his actions in bringing into Hamilton County the gay queer theory, if you will, out of Washington, that has had the effect and will have effect for decades out of eviscerating written statutes and making it really unclear how the statute operates, which assumes that marriage is between one man and one woman. How can you have a statute that is there in the books that's not been vacated or repealed? And how can you have a provisional constitution that defines marriage as between one man and one woman and not have a very paralyzing effect on the law and on procedure? And that point is one made by Chancery Court Judge Jeff Atherton, who took a lot of heat also in raising a question in a divorce case. How do I have authority to do anything at all, given Obergefell versus Hodges? And as I think back on that you might say that a press release that if Mr. Knowles had taken, I would say, the Christian position and taken the constitutional position, he would have said, "I'm sorry, I simply can't yield to the two men in the lobby here, the apparent mates who want to get married. They're wanting me to issue a marriage license, and I don't believe I can do that given these legal facts that bind me to my job to issue marriage licenses, since I do have that authority from the late 1700s to issue a marriage license to men and women uniting in marriage together only, and not to either two women marrying or two men marrying. I don't have that authority. And the fact that when the ruling was made that Governor Haslam, the Republican, Herbert Slattery III, his attorney general, both of them are Presbyterian elders in the Presbyterian Church, And here in Hamilton County, Bill Knowles, they all said, well, the court has ruled. Now, what those words have the effect of, they would have us believe, those words have the effect of making null and void the oaths that they took to uphold the law. So the question is whether you're for gay marriage or against gay marriage is beside the point. The question is, can we have constitutional government, and can we have a protection of our property and our lives when we have officials who can disregard a clear mandate in the law and say, well, something has intervened, something has superimposed itself in my life, and I'm not bound by the oath I made to uphold a particular set of lines of type, which are found in the Tennessee Code Annotated. The very first volume of that set is all about the Constitution. So many provisions have no litigation at all. They've not come up in court. They're just there, you might say, in stone. And then one of the most recent amendments to the Tennessee Constitution was the addition of marriage as between one man and one woman, and that the state shall not recognize any other union in its scheme for regulation of marriage than that. Now, there's a side question here that on the David Tulis Show that we can think about, and that is, why does the state have authority at all to say anything about marriage? And my own position is that you, my listener, should not marry under license. Okay, just let's say that up front. You and your children should marry as a matter of right. You should marry at common law. And though Tennessee pretends not to be a common law state and has claims that its statute preempts common law, it may in some respects do that, but it cannot possibly, no statute or no regulation, you need to know this, can preempt and void a constitutionally protected, God-given, unalienable an inherent right that you have. And you have many of them, though we've been taught by public school to think that, well, we have just a few. We have got the First Amendment, and we may have the Second Amendment, and there may be a right to jury trial. We have a Fourth Amendment against searches and seizures, but that's about it. There are many rights that we never even hear about, which are fundamental and essential, and they come and they inhere in you because you, my listener, are a soul with a body, right? The body may be a male body, it may be a female body, one sex or the other, and because God made you that way in His image, you have these rights, and they are there. Some would argue whether you can alienate them or not. I think you can. But I would say that there are rights you can't alienate. You can't sell them. Okay, you can't traffic in them and sell them. And but what I want to get to here on the David Tulis Show at 800-8949, that's 800-8949, is this whole question about what is secure if we have here in Hamilton County, with no one saying anything about it, our leading official, our most notable octogenarian official, keeping his office and having 100% support, the most holy and Christian office holder we have. Now, many of the ones who took their oaths of office Tuesday morning down at the Trade Center in a room full of political people and party people and well-wishers, civic-minded people, family members, many of them had their own Bibles when they took their oath. And I don't know how many, because I didn't really see, I wasn't really looking for Bibles in hands as I stalked about with my camera. But I did see that Jim Hammond, the sheriff, was there with his personal Bible, or maybe you would call it a family Bible. And that's the one upon which he put his hand to take the oath of office to uphold the Constitution. And so we know that and every office taker on Tuesday, and this is good news, I'd say, did the oath before God. No one said, I will not make an oath before God. I refuse to do that. And he has a right in our system today. He has a right to make what's called an affirmation, which of course is nothing at all. An affirmation to do something is simply saying, well, I will do it. But it does not evoke, or should I say, it does not invoke the deity. It does not invoke God, who in an oath, right? An oath is always in terms of God's supervision of the promise. An oath invokes God and calls upon God to pour his wrath. This is what an oath is. Okay, got it? An oath is a statement and a promise made before God and asking him to guarantee the promise, that he will bless the keeping of the promise, and conversely, right, on the other side, he will pour anger and bitterness and gall and judgment and swords and knives and worms upon the swearer if the swearer does not obey and keep the promise. And that's why oaths are important. And that's why these events that take place and every 4 years or so for individual members of office, they're reelected every 4 years, some every 6. I think Neil Pinkston, the DA, has a 6-year term. These events are not trivial, right? They're not just ceremonious. They're not just officiousness. It's not just fussiness. Okay, these events, I would like you to understand, and I would like you to mean them to mean something to you. They are not just ceremonial. They're not just perfunctory. They're not simply, you might say, pro forma, right? It's not just a form that we fill out because, well, it's written in the law that we have to do that, and we have it written in the law that, well, we have these events, and that every office taker, Judge Hedrick, for example, must sign the form, and the man who gave the oath or the woman who administered the oath signs also, right, in blue ink. Everybody signs the form. The two sign the form, and that goes into the record. It's not just that. It's not just formulaic. Okay, it's not just kind of a pattern that we follow and don't live it out. I would say that the oath-taking ceremony in which Bill Knowles again took the oath before God to uphold the Constitution is not just a formula. And yet, when someone like me, the dissenter, right, the man with the minority report in Chattanooga, points out that you can't simply turn your back on the law, that I'm excoriated, I'm bitterly assailed by every single person who reads the Chattanoogan or who hears my analysis on this, the greatest station in Chattanooga, the biggest and most wonderful and cheeriest, most can-do press platform in Chattanooga. And that, of course, is 92.7 FM and 95.3 FM HD4. And my goal is to dissent because I want you to do better, right? You, my listener, I want you to do better. You think about the ballot box, right? Think about the jury box, the 3 boxes. And of course, the 4th box is the bullet box. We have those too. You, my listener, even if you're a woman, you probably have a thing that uses bullets. I sure hope so. And if you're a man, I'm confident that you have probably multiple of objects that use bullets, right, in the bullet box, all of which we understand are to guarantee our liberty and to keep the officials fearful, right? To keep cops fearful, to keep inspectors fearful, to keep bean counters and tax authorities mindful of the limits on their power, right? That's why we have that's why we are an armed citizenry and the most heavily armed population in the world, of any country in the world. The American, the most angrily armed, right? And that's right. He is angry. He is armed not just because he wants to shoot deer or varmints with his 223 cal Mini 14. He is there because in his mind, right, at least in his mind, he is something of a sentinel. He is a guardian. He's waiting to secure, waiting to act, waiting for the invasion, right? The invasion of the Soviet Union or of whomever. The danger really is not, in thinking of bearing arms, the danger is not from the external threat. The danger is from internal threat. Now, the government, people in government view riot and chaos as something that would invoke, say, the calling up of the militia, right? If you have an insurrection, those words are in the Constitution and in the statute pertaining to the Tennessee Defense Force, and I think also the militia. When there's insurrection and riot, the governor, uses his power to call up the militia. That is to say, all armed, all men maybe from mid-20s to mid-50s. It's been a while since I've read that law. They are the militia, and you're a member of the militia, whether you know it or not, right? In our law, and that's because you're a man. Why call them up? Well, because there's insurrection, there's rioting. The danger really is not. The law envisions the danger, which I think has receded, and that is because I'd say long term of the effects of Christendom on the human race. We are becoming gentler and milder, and our tyrannies are gentler and milder than they used to be under the old antique imperiums, right? At the time of Rome and before. We have tyrannies today which are quite a bit softer and last quite a bit shorter than the ones of old used to last. But still, the danger that we want to think about is within. The danger is within, and it's not from among the people. The insurrection, the revolution, right? The riot. That is from the state. That comes from state actors, and this is what we are concerned about. And you, my listener, I want you to understand that you are to be vigilant, right? You report, and the world decides. That's our platform, and we're brought to you by Nuganomics.com, the chief website for the people who matter. A tiny group of people matter. Probably 5% of the people in Chattanooga, the people in East Ridge or Saudi Daisy, or points near beyond those jurisdictions in Chattanooga. 5% matter, and of those, just a very few understand that my analysis really matters, and that is what I'm here for. Nonprofit. It's all nonprofit for me. I'm a writer and a blogger, completely nonprofit. Everything I do is totally gratis. It's free. My platform, Nuganomics.com, is a charity website. Okay, it's all there for edification of the reader, the one reader. And I know that's not you, because you just haven't figured out to be reader number 2. But it's a few people matter, and great changes have always been brought about by individuals with ideas. And the man about books, just a word about books. The man who reads one book is thought to be a leader, and the man or the woman, right? The woman who reads 5 books, well, she is a prophet. So, read one book, you're a leader. Read 5 books, you're a prophet. And I'm sad to say that is the way it is. All right, getting back to the question about the oath, and I want to explain what has happened. What has happened with Bill Knowles is that the oath that he's taking, that he took Tuesday, as he faces perhaps the next crisis of his career. The Obergefell versus Hodges crisis in June 2015 was his great crisis, and it was his great test. And you can call me now if you want to defend him, 800-8949, 800-8949, and he failed the test. But now the question is, well, so what? So what does it matter if someone violates his oath? Well, on the point of theology, the study of God, right? That's what theology is. Biology is the study of bio, living matter. Theology is the study of God, the study of theos. In theology, God himself enforces his name. He guarantees that he will secure his name against all abusers of it. If not in this life, then in the next. So you may not have been aware that an oath was violated and an oath was broken, with no one commenting, and everyone defending Mr. Knowles as against me, an arrogant person who doesn't know his place. I'm not saying that Mr. Knowles this is not a personal matter here. Okay, I respect Mr. Knowles. I've had friendly chats with him. He gave me a nice interview on Tuesday. There's no ought here. Okay, there's no anger. There's no bitterness, and maybe because he doesn't know all that I've written about him. But I have written many articles about this whole question of oaths. And back in 2014 and 15, preparing for the gay mudslide, right? The queer mudslide that has drenched the landscape and obliterated much law and much of the concept of statutory law. Maybe there's a good prospect, though, on the outside, in the out years, you might say, of this disaster, this legal disaster. There is something, I think, that can be viewed as a benefit. And maybe you want me to say what that is now? Well, if two men can marry under law, and that means a man and a monkey can marry, that means three men can marry. That means three men and two women can marry. There are all kinds of bizarre polyamorous and interspecies kinds of relationships that can theoretically be granted wedding licenses at Mr. Knowles' office. He'll do anything if it seems to be that a judge wrote something favorable about it. But in the end, I think what we face is the prospect of the end of state control of marriage entirely. Tennessee needs to make some important steps and get out of the marriage licensing business entirely. If anything, there should be perhaps a certificate of marriage, but not a license. A license is simply permission in the state because it is alleged to be sovereign. It can do what it wants. Not under God, though, and not without judgment within the society and upon the state itself, I suggest. David Toulis, call me now, 800-8949, and we'll talk 800-8949.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Joshua Rhodes, a former McMinn County detective, was charged with 10 felony counts of wire fraud, 1 count of aggravated identity theft. The indictment claims he stole the identity of a suspect in order to siphon money from local financial institutions. Rhodes was fired from the sheriff's office in 2016. The Chattanooga Fire Department says 2 people were aboard a Carta bus when it ran off the road. A driver and driving instructor were both inside when the bus veered to the right and hit a power pole on Greenwood Road. Neither of the 2 were hurt. And a grand jury tour of the Hamilton County Jail was eye-opening, according to a report. A quote from the report says, "What immediately became apparent was the overcrowding of the jail. The inmates need to be kept occupied. It seems they have way too much time on their hands, which leads to trouble within the jail." The report adds the staff was competent, dedicated, and humane. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford at FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric, you're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nooga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks? Even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just
One more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Except partly sunny skies out there through your afternoon. An isolated shower storm will pop up. Highs upper 80s. Tonight, any showers quickly diminishing. Lows near 70. For Friday, mostly sunny, hot, mainly dry. Highs up around 90. Could see a late shower storm Saturday. Highs upper 80. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Sorgene 12. She's meteorologist after 4.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I'll be at the Starbucks this evening. David Toulis here at 10 North on the North Shore, hanging out with the Gridiron Gang Show. I'm there working on my projects and tuning in just a little bit, maybe meeting you if you would like to drop by for a coffee. I've got my tedious chores. I'm working on some essays. One, I've still got my long legal analysis of the notice doctrine to finish, and I'm thinking maybe since I've got open records requests out for my Title 55 reform project, which is to say transportation administrative notice, I might be, and I'm expecting that the notice is not being properly considered by those who are legally liable to deal with the statute. I might want to make note of some of the details in case law regarding notice and how notice changes things. It changes relationships. It brings duty and obligation, especially when there's a notice of fact, and especially the other kind of notice of law, which is what transportation administrative notice purports to be, making notice. Now, I'll be there. There are extended hours all season long at the Starbucks on the North Shore for the Gridiron Gang Show. There'll be our broadcasters, Nick LaFew and Sam Jordan and others as well, talking high school football every Thursday night, all season long, and brought to you by Vision Hospitality Group. This is David Toulis. And I'm asking the question about the kind of government that we want to have, maybe, though, one that we don't deserve. And that is one which I'd like to suggest is an interposition style government rather than a executive welfare-oriented style government that we have today. The constitutional form that we have of government does allow the executive state, as we've seen, and the high court from the Roosevelt time on has always granted more and more executive power until we have really here in the United States a kind of monarchy. We have the superiority of the administrative state over almost all of human life, and there is a subsumption, which means to say the subsuming of, the absorbing of the people in the administrative state and the administrative realm, so that they don't have constitutional rights. They don't know how to exercise them. And we understand that, public schools are designed for that purpose. They're designed to make the administrative welfare, surveillance, and warfare state run smoothly. It's all about efficiency. It's all about reducing costs and reducing, as we were supposed to believe, reducing risk, because insurance and modern welfare government are of the like framework. Keep our costs down, reduce risks, and regulate everybody to pieces. In contrast to that, there is, you might say, the biblical model of government, which is you find that in the public policy parts of the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. The government of Israel as a nation, as a confederation, is where you'd find that. That would be in some of the early books of the law. And there you have government that is really passive, and a government so respectful of the rights of people, so liberal, right? So incredibly liberal and open and minimalist in its claims that you had a remarkable people. The Israelites, the modern Jews, as they're called, say that they originate from the children of Israel. I don't think they do, but that's another issue, another question. I really don't care about that much. But there is from that people, from the Hebrew Republic, you had a limited government. The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. Do call me, right? If you've got a problem, let's talk about what's going on in your life. I'm really happy to do that. I always have things to talk about, though. So if absent you're calling me now and you want to hear this discussion, please feel free. I am just trying to make myself useful to you and give you a better sense of where we are, what we've lost, in hopes of getting it back, right? Getting it back. Loving our neighbors and buying local economy in the free market here in serif free type, right? The Helvetica font type, Geneva, where there's no compulsion, right? All voluntary. That what we have to argue for is the free market, which means a voluntary free market, a voluntary relation among all the people in society, with nobody having a favor, nobody having a license over somebody else, right? Don't forget, licensing is inherently discriminatory. A license means that one person can do something and the other person can't. So whenever there's a licensing scheme, and we have many of them in Tennessee, we're one of the worst states in the federal union for regulating and controlling by the state through various commissions and boards, industries and callings and professions and innocent activities that make people rich and improve people's lives. You might say in commerce, we're one of the worst, though we have had some improvements in the statute that require, you might say, review of these regulatory agencies. We have too many of them, and so we need to understand that whenever you have a licensing type government, you have a liberty, but it's licensed, right? Which means you're not free. You're not free. If you're doing something by license, you're not free to do it. And so my argument that I want you to desire, because I think we can't change things unless we just start desiring the right things, seeing the evil things that are in Chattanooga and Hamilton County for what they are, like the raid on the home of Jesse Parker Tuesday last on the what day was it? It was the 27th of I'm sorry, wrong date. August 29th. That's when that happened. Things like that. We need to understand those as evil. We need to understand them as wrong, and encourage the people who are the victims to step up, as Mr. Parker did. Mr. Parker, I have friendly relation with this man since I've met him, and part of my job is to encourage people like him. Look, Mr. Parker, you've written this affidavit. You're a smart man to write an affidavit. You're a school teacher. You know that what the value of a record is. Well, now take it to the city council. Take it to the city council, Mr. Parker. And he did. Now, so I encourage people to stand up and use all their means in their power to bring about a healthy reform. And we need multiple reforms on the police side. Now, getting back to the oath of office problem, we need to have a government that intervenes on behalf of the innocent, the weak, the poor. Right? That's in Israel, in old Israel, the old republic. The government was charged repeatedly with not offending the stranger and the alien. One law for both. No two laws for us Anglo-Saxon Americans, and another law for the Hispanic, right? People coming across the border, so-called without documents, right? Would that we all be undocumented Americans, right? That's what we want to be. And so if we are clamoring for against undocumented Spanish-speaking swarthy people who work with their hands, then what we're really clamoring for is that we all ourselves, right? You, white American, me, black white American, you and me, we're all wanting to be documented. Let it not be that we want to be documented. And now we're going to impose the same regime through E-Verify and other forms of federal surveillance on the marketplace and labor. We want to have a government that interposes on behalf of the weak and ends oppressions, even if it's from its own agencies and its own organs, okay? Like the Department of Safety and Homeland Security is an organ of oppression used by the legislature, used by the Republican and Democrat legislature used by governors, whether Haslam or Bredesen from either party, to oppress the poor. And it's an oppression that's so familiar that we don't even see it. We don't even see it until, I would like to suggest, until we started reading Nuganomics and listening to David Toulis. And I do thank you for giving me just a couple minutes of your time. And I will be, by the way, tonight, I plan to be at the Starbucks at 10 North Shore. So do come by. And also, just since we're talking about things that we want to be doing, join Nuga Radio 92.7 FM Friday. Now, this is coming up on the 14th for the Trail of Tears Memorial Ride. Now, this is a pre-ride rally. There's a ride coming through town and a pre-ride rally at Crockett Power Sports and Indian Power Sports of Chattanooga. We'll be there broadcasting live at 4 p.m. until 7. And you'll have on hand vendors and food and music and a chance to gather, as we like to say, in fellowship with your tribe. We are somewhat tribalists since we're localists and enjoying the fruits of the pending decentralization in the American economy. It's the silver anniversary of the great event. Bikers from across the nation are gathering with the Trail of Tears Memorial Association members, and they hold this ride and remember this long trek by the American natives. So it's 4 p.m. It's a pre-ride rally live from Crockett Power Sports and Indy Motorcycles of Chattanooga with Nuga Radio 92.7 FM. And my name is David Toulis, and I do thank you for giving me just a few minutes of your time. The editor of Nuganomics.com. So what I'm trying to get somewhere. Please forgive me, but feel free to interrupt me, okay? 800-8949, 800-8949. The interposition type of government is there to stop evil, right? It doesn't act until there's an evil, and then it stops it, okay? Whether it's a crime or if there's a wrong, let's say a fraud, a tort, an abuse. Let's say an errant son is abusing his old father, okay? And the mother died in unusual circumstances. Well, there's either a tort there or a crime. So government will intervene there, right? It acts when there is an issue, when there's friction in society, a wrong is being done, crime or civil wrong, it intervenes. That's kind of the model. It imposes when there's wrong, but it doesn't act in executive fashion like our governments all do today, and which both Republicans and Democrats support. They are inescapably progressive and inescapably socialist, right? Both parties are socialist parties. You just have your conservative wing, and then you have your sort of fantastic, dreamy wing, which is the Democrat side. Now, if we have a government of interposition, we have a Bill Knowles who, in June 2015, saw Obergefell versus Hodges, the queer rights opinion, right? The lug butt opinion, LGBTQ. Lug butt is my handle for LGBT. I don't like using letters like that. I don't like them forced upon me, so I try to make a word out of it. Please forgive me. That's what the editor does, right? The editor, he will find the word there, just the right word for you. And did not Mr. Bill Knowles, our county clerk, think that he could have interposed? And what would have happened if he had interposed, if he had respected his oath of office and interposed on behalf of the people, but not under the pretense of defending the people, but under the claim of standing upon the law? And he would have created a counter-revolution. It would have been counter-revolutionary because the revolution is from within, right? It's from within, from the law swept in upon us by the lawyer class. And all lawyers will tell you that high court opinions are, in fact, law. They will tell you that the high court, when it issues an opinion in a particular fact set, makes law for the whole country. That's the nostrum, the common wisdom from the barrister guild. Mr. Knowles took an oath, and when he did, before that opinion was issued, it was a promise to pay, right? It was a promissory note. He became a debtor to the law, the law being the Constitution of Tennessee, and the provision in the Tennessee Constitution that made marriage only between one man and one woman. And let me see what the provision was. It was Article 6, Section 18, the historical institution and legal contract solemnizing the relationship of one man and one woman shall be the only legally recognized marital contract in the state. Now, when that opinion was issued, he simply pretended that didn't matter, right? So, in other words, something saved him from having to obey his oath of office. His oath, the one he took Tuesday, is the same one that he took back then. It has not changed. It's in the statute. It does not change. So he was a debtor to the law to obey it or to lie to God. And that when you invoke God's name in taking an oath, you are saying, God, make me guarantee obedience to my promise, right? And God, if I don't obey my promise, then I have you to account for. I have your judgment upon me. And so that's what's happened. The people of Chattanooga and the people of Hamilton County, in their wisdom, are leaving it to God to deal with this very devout Christian man. He's a Christian man, right? He's a professing Christian. He listens to Christian radio when he goes from the office on Bonnie Oaks downtown and back. When he's going to take his wife to the hospital, Mr. Knowles, who's been in office for 45 years starting Tuesday, right? That's how long he's been in office, 12 four-year terms. And yet there is this one question I have, and it is, as I say, it is for a sovereign greater than any of us and greater than our state to make things right on the other side. Can you throw a law aside? Can something separate you from a promise? If there is, you take an oath because at some point your obligation will be challenged. That's why you take the oath. You don't take the oath for when things are smooth and there's just routine government, right? Those don't matter then. There's no challenge to your authority. There's no challenge to what the law says. There's no challenge to the plain meaning of a law. Oaths are meant for when there is a defiance, when there's a temptation, a fierce temptation to disobey. There's always a fierce temptation to disobey. It happens every day when the cop goes on the street. There's hundreds of small ones in Chattanooga every day. Do we obey our oath or do we not obey our oath? And then here, in the case of this clerk, our most esteemed and most Christian county clerk in Hamilton County, the great test of his life. He has had no test of his life except this one 3 years ago. And he failed it because he was induced to fail. He was induced to throw the law aside, and he is now enforcing the new regime in marriage. He had promised that until he left office, he would not do that, but he did. And so, what the oath that he took? Let me just tell you what the oath said to him, and maybe if you think of other officials and their duties, what the oath says about what they do. Mr. Knowles, when he swore, 800-8949, 800-8949, when he swore, he promised there would be no deconstruction of the law. The law could not be deconstructed in front of him. In other words, you can't take the law and pretend that a neutron bomb has blown up on the page of the Tennessee Code with that provision in the law, and all the marriage statutes over in the other section are found. There's no neutron bomb theory where the bomb blows up and the structures are all there, but there's no life inside. That's what he said he wouldn't do. He would not allow any neutron bomb to blow up and make the words remain on the page, but without any life and without any meaning in the culture and life and economy of our state. He promised that when he took the oath, that there would not be any process that would make the words of the law an empty shell, make them just gibberish, drain from them the life and meaning of what the law is. Laws are just words. They are claims. They are all of them religious. Every law is a religious claim of what is right and what is wrong. And here in Tennessee, we have a thing called positivist law, and we have it all written out. I would say we should have a common law system, but I'm out of my time on that one. And Mr. Knowles yielded his honor. He yielded his honor when he said, the high court has ruled, the governor has agreed that we have to obey this law. There's nothing I can do. I'm just a small clerk in a small county, one of 95 counties. Who am I to say anything otherwise? Well, you are, because the oath is personal. You, as an office holder, whether you're an officer in the police department, or a city council member, or a county commissioner, or you're Judge Hedrick, or Judge Greenholz, or Judge Steelman, or any of the judges, your oath is personal. You personally make the Constitution live wherever you are. Every act that you make has to be bound by the Constitution, and you're there to guarantee it. Your job as an officer, as a city commissioner here in East Ridge, a town commissioner, a town council member in Saudi Daisy, whether the job is great or small, the goal is to respect the people, respect their rights. And that's what the Constitution is all about, respecting the division of power, not letting personal ambition or the ambition that resides in every office in its own particular way spread its claims further and further out, so that the people have less and less liberty, less and less free movement, less prospect. To not keep your oath is a form of perjury, because a perjurer says he does something he knows is false. He says something he knows is false. So you can't take an oath and then say anything after that goes against the Constitution, because then it's perjury. So when Bill Knowles, when the first gay couple came to him and he said, okay, well, we have the ruling, I've skimmed it and I know what it means, and so I'm going to give you a marriage license. How is that granting of a license with his signature under it not perjury? How is it not? I'm just asking it, Jim. I'm not trying to offend Mr. Knowles, but listen, he took the oath before God in public on Tuesday. The next challenge, the next threat, what's he going to do? What's Sheriff Hammond going to do when the federal government says, we think we need to, Trump's out of office and we Democrats are in charge now, and we need you, Sheriff Hammond, to start collecting all guns that have bottom-fed magazines, okay? And what's Sheriff Hammond going to do? Is he going to say, well, I'm just one small sheriff in 95 counties in this great state of Tennessee, I'm just going to have to give in? Is that what he's going to say? Where is your liberty? Where is your freedom when the officer disregards the oath for his office and his task, right? His assignment. An oath is a promissory note. It's a note of promises to pay. It makes you a debtor. You are a debtor to the law and to the people. Can you use your own words? The court has ruled to nullify the Constitution. That's what Bill Knowles did. No one has held him to account. And that's why have we not held him to account? Because we've done the same thing for God. All the thousands of Christian people in this county have done the same thing to God's law. They count them as nothing. So Bill Knowles is in good company. We've all done the same thing. We're in good company with him. David Toulis, Nigger Radio. And the number, 800-8949. And next is Sean Hannity.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Joshua Rhodes, a former McMinn County detective, was charged with 10 felony counts of wire fraud, 1 count of aggravated identity theft. The indictment claims he stole the identity of a suspect in order to siphon money from local financial institutions. Rhodes was fired from the sheriff's office in 2016. The Chattanooga Fire Department says 2 people were aboard a Carta bus when it ran off the road. The driver and driving instructor were both inside when the bus veered to the right and hit a power pole on Greenwood Road. Neither of the 2 were hurt. And a grand jury tour of the Hamilton County Jail was eye-opening, according to a report. A quote from the report says, what immediately became apparent was the overcrowding of the jail. The inmates need to be kept occupied. It seems they have way too much time on their hands, which leads to trouble within the jail. The report adds the staff was competent, dedicated, and humane. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Except partly sunny skies out there through your afternoon. An isolated shower storm will pop up. Highs upper 80s. Tonight, any showers quickly diminishing. Lows near 70. For Friday, mostly sunny, hot, mainly dry. Highs up around 90. Could see a late shower storm. Saturday, highs upper 80. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Sorgene 12, chief meteorologist, Master 4.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. business. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Call 423-875-3600 if you're looking to expand your professional look of your business. Then consider the vast opportunities that are available when you locate your office with the Raines Group family. Remember, it's location, location, location. And the Raines Group has the location for your professional office. Check out the spaces for lease at Executive Business Park on the Lee Highway. Small or large, we will be able to suit your needs with the Raines Group. Call 423-875-3600 for the business professionals with the Raines Group.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. They have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. Hey, girls, you're going to love this. We're going to the knife shop.
Hey, let's not tell them they have ammo and loading supplies.
The knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives. You're going to love the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. The knife shop.
And tell them David Toulis sent you.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7.
Nuga Radio. WPLZ HD4 Ottawa. W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by ZipRecruiter.
I'm Jim Shanavy. Some Trump administration officials are issuing denials of any involvement in an internal resistance, as profiled in an anonymous op-ed piece published by the New York Times. VP Mike Pence.
Anyone who would write an anonymous editorial smearing this president, who's provided extraordinary leadership to this country, should not be working for this administration. They ought to do the honorable thing and they ought to resign.
CBS's Stephen Portnoy.
As all of Washington wonders who wrote the piece, the press secretary calls on the news media to end its, quote, wild obsession with the identity of the anonymous coward. Sarah Sanders urges those who want to know who the gutless loser is to call the New York Times and ask them. Several officials, from the Secretary of State to the Director of National Intelligence, have denied authoring the op-ed.
Day 3 of Senate confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh saw New Jersey's Cory Booker release confidential Kavanaugh emails referencing racial profiling and questioning whether Roe v. Wade was settled law.
And I'm releasing it to expose that, number one, the emails that are being withheld from the public have nothing to do with national security.
Texas Republican John Cornyn.
I was disappointed to see last night that some of our colleagues are unwilling or unable to conduct themselves in this hearing with regular order and in accordance with the rules of the committee and the rules of the Senate.
This is expected to be the final day of questioning of Kavanaugh. Another overture from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un suggesting maybe denuclearization is on again. BBC correspondent Laura Bicker in Seoul.
He has apparently reiterated his will to denuclearize to the South Koreans. He says he's willing to work with the Trump administration and, in fact, still trusts the Trump administration and President Trump in particular. And he's willing to do it while President Trump is still in office, so within the next 2 years.
And no precondition on U.S. troop withdrawals. The government going after a Korean hacker. CBS's Steve Futterman.
The criminal complaint filed here in L.A. accuses a North Korean citizen, Park Jin-hyuk, who the Justice Department says was working on behalf of the North Korean government. Park is accused of being involved with a number of high-profile cyber attacks, including the hack of Sony Pictures in 2014. The Justice Department says the attacks caused unprecedented economic damage to businesses around the world. It calls the scope of the attacks staggering.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 16, the NASDAQ Composite down 82, and the S&P 500 up a point. This is CBS News.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified candidates for businesses of all sizes. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Pay off credit card debt with a personal loan from Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Life can add up quickly, like when your youngest needed braces the same week as your oldest tuition was due. And then you got hit with a vet bill for the real baby of the family. Debt happens. It's how you get out that counts. Get a personal loan from Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Fixed interest rates, monthly payment options, and no fees, ever. Learn more at Marcus.com.
Coffee shop, gas station, grocery store, Polly's Palace of Fine Coats. One of these purchases is not like the others. Sound suspicious? We thought so too. Today, we're recommitting to you and continuing to help keep your money safe, like alerting you to certain card activity we find suspicious. If it's not your purchase, we'll help you resolve it. Wells Fargo, established 1852, reestablished 2018. Availability may be affected by your mobile carrier's coverage area. Wells Fargo Bank N.A., member FDIC.
Changes coming to a British luxury fashion brand. Larry Miller reports from London.
After being slammed in shame for burning $37 million worth of unsold goods in a single year, British luxury fashion brand Burberry says it won't do that again and will instead recycle unwanted products. Burberry says it destroyed clothes, accessories, and perfume to protect its brand by preventing them being sold cheaply. In another move, Burberry says it will no longer use real fur in its clothing and phase out existing products with animal fur. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
The coroner's report is in on the death of Cranberry singer Dolores O'Riordan, and it's being called an accident. Coroner Shirley Radcliffe says O'Riordan died from drowning because of alcohol intoxication. The 46-year-old did not leave a note, and there was no sign of self-harm. She was found submerged in a bathtub at a London hotel in January. At the time of her death, she was in London for a recording session. Jim Chenevey, CBS News.
Till that is 3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
New details revealed in the Gary McPherson murder case. Reports say his body was found on a bed of broken glass, and the suspect, Rodney Gearing, had a bad cut to his arm. Investigators say he got it from broken glass, and he was carrying a small handgun, which he later tried to sell. It belonged to Mr. McPherson. 2 suspects arrested after the Vance Avenue slaying. Dominic Gillespie and Leisha Jones, both taken into custody in Polk County. They're going to be extradited out to Hamilton County. They're accused of killing 52-year-old Norman Sullivan in his apartment on Vance Avenue. If you bought gas in Trenton, you may want to check your credit card statement. Police in Trenton confiscated a credit card skimming device from a gas station on Highway 11. The Trenton police say it's a small white device with flashing LEDs hidden behind one of the motherboards inside the gas station pump. Coolidge Park going to be closed down until Sunday due to a festival. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Except partly sunny skies out there through your afternoon. An isolated shower storm will pop up. Highs upper 80s. Tonight, any showers quickly diminishing. Lows near 70. For Friday, mostly sunny, hot, mainly dry. Highs up around 90. You could see a late shower storm. Saturday, highs upper 80s. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Sorgene 12. She's the meteorologist after 4.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Do you hear that? That, my friend, is not what you're thinking. That is the new 2018 Indian Chieftain Dark Horse. Yeah, Indian. Indian motorcycle is more than a bike. It's an experience, an American icon. And Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga is the only place you'll find their new 2018 line. Are you ready to ride? Join the club. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign, 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
If you want to discover the real hope for your life through inspirational music, relevant messages, and testimonies from others who have already found hope, then we encourage you to visit the second annual My Hope Conference, October 7th through 9th at Hickson First Baptist Church. Free admission and childcare is provided for kids up to pre-K, while those in kindergarten through 5th grade will attend the Kids Hope Rally. For more info, visit myhopeconference.com or call Hickson First Baptist Church at 423-877-2467.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7.
Nuga Radio. Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
It is truly an amazing contest. The Deep State, we have one here in Tennessee, versus Keela Jackson. Keela Jackson is about 30. She is a writer, a blogger, and she works at a school. She works at Chambliss, what used to be called the Chambliss Children's Center. I think it still is. And is a teacher, and she has other gigs altogether, about seven streams of quote income, as she would tell you, all of which though don't work together to pay her bills or to help her really get ahead, even though she had a master's degree in education that she got on a full scholarship. So here we have this very intelligent young person, and because she had an encounter with Title 55, she is under a civil death sentence. And I sometimes wonder about how you perceive our press platform here at 92.7. Here we are, the right-wing radio station, so-called, right, with Sean Hannity at 3 o'clock every day at 3, the biggest national talk show host, and on our state here in Chattanooga. And we have Alex Jones, right? We have other conservatives, Republican-type hosts. And then here's David Toulis, right? David Toulis is the classical liberal, and you having a hard time figuring me out entirely. But I will have you know, and maybe sometime we can talk about it, but my views are all consistent. They're all consistent. The part of the same, one part connects with every other part. Just like in the Bible, every one doctrine of God's truth connects with every other, and you can't do damage to one without affecting all of them and requiring all of them to be somehow adjusted to fit your own variation, right? Your own heterodoxy on a given point. If you press it out into the scriptures, you'll find that one point maybe changes your whole doctrine entirely. And that's what all idolatrous thoughts about God, all wrong thoughts about God do. They feed each other, and they press the individual heart away from, and the society away from the whole fabric. And so my views on various things such as the free market and the Bible, or individual responsibility, or civil rights or constitutional rights, they're all pretty consistent, though there's some parts that have been undergoing change lately. Keela Jackson, I encountered at a meeting in support for a man in prison, Anjali Moore. There was a fundraiser for his attorney prior to a hearing before Judge Don Poole. And Keela was telling me about her distress that is longstanding, about 4 years in existence since she had a traffic stop under Title 55 and lost her driving privileges, as they're called. So she can't drive, quote unquote. She can't do the activity called driving, nor operating a motor vehicle. She can't do those things. And so she's effectively under a civil death sentence. She can't get places. She can't get to meetings easily. And so she's making an appeal, or has made an appeal, to Judge Sherry Patey in city court. She's the daytime city court judge. The nighttime court judge is Russell Bean. My children have all been before Judge Bean, just so you know. And so Judge Patey denied a request for a restricted driver's license that I had suggested Keela ask for. And so Keela drafted a motion, to a petition to get that, and she was told by the clerks, "Well, no, sorry, ma'am, you can't do that. You have to just enter our payment plan and apply for the whole thing, right? The real thing." And the distress is great in this in the life of this individual. And she wants you to understand something, and she wants you to take her side. Here's what
Keila Jackson, you're down here in the city. You've just come to visit Mark Ravith, the new Register of Deeds, on his second day. What is it that you and I were trying to accomplish by visiting his office today?
With me, I was accompanying you as you were presenting your actual notice. And with the notice, it basically presents the law, the statute of commercial vehicular transportation as opposed to private transportation. And with your notice, it is basically stating that people such as myself, persons such as myself, we have a right to transportation. We have a right to have a driver's license because my transportation is a private matter and not a commercial matter. And in your filing or you're presenting this information, it is a definite help to me in my pursuit of my license and my legal situation.
Well, what if you can't get a restricted driver's license in your petition to City Court Judge Sherry Patey, who's already turned down a request for a restricted license? Are you planning to go back with her or to her? And if so, what do you plan to propose?
Yes, at this point in time, I plan to refile an affidavit to have her to reconsider what's already been presented based upon the information that you have just placed on record today. With your notification, it is a very secure support of what I'm trying to get Judge Patey to reconsider, and that is the fact of my right to travel, my right to have a driver's license in my current circumstance, despite the fees that I owe.
And say something about the fees that you owe, the amount, and what kind of obstacle that has been for you to be able to travel unmolested on the roads and streets.
I currently have 4 violations against me, and with those violations, they are city sticker, registration, improper light, and insurance, and they come to a total amount of around $583 and some change. And in addition to that, I owe the state of Georgia $100 for failure to appear and $100 for the actual failure to pay. So in total, it's close to $800 that I currently owe. In addition to those fines, I have to actually obtain insurance, driver's insurance for a non-vehicular owner policy, and that will be around $57 a month.
And is this amount, the $800 that you owe, plus the requirement for insurance if you get some kind of license, is that something in your budget?
Currently, no. I do have a savings, and I do try to responsibly work out of the savings. However, if I actually attempt to pay the fines, it will deplete my savings, and then I will have to start from scratch again, only because I do not have the financial means to simply pay outright.
So is it your understanding that you never have been involved in commerce? Say something about an affidavit that you've drafted in which you attest that you are a private user of the roads and that you're not involved in for-hire use of the roads. What do you say in that document? What's that about, and why does it matter? Why would anyone care?
Well, within the affidavit, it does state that I am a private driver and that a license is needed, as I do serve the community as an educator, as an activist, as a writer, as a blogger. And with my restricted travel, my livelihood is restricted, therefore inhibiting my chance of earning more money so that I can pay these fines. And it's essentially keeping me in a pauper status. With this affidavit, prayerfully, it will allow me to move forward financially, and it will allow me to travel, which is my right.
And so traveling by right, then, are you sure that are you suggesting that if you have a right to travel, that you can do so without a license? Is that what you're going to be asking Judge Patey to do? Are you asking her to recognize that you can travel the roads of the city privately outside of commerce without the license from the Department of Safety? Because ultimately, all licenses come from that department. And if she turns you down on restricted license, and you can't afford it, you can't afford the full one, might she recognize a right to travel by car apart from any license at all?
Well, based upon the information that you presented today, I will use that as a basis of requesting that she issue an agreed order to me, that she issue a basic allowance of me to travel outside of the DOS certification. And once again, based upon your information that you submitted, there are statutes that uphold my right to travel, regardless of whether she's able to grant the agreed order or not.
And just quickly, Keila Jackson, why is regulation expected and imposed upon commercial use, but regulation is not in the law put upon private users, people like you maybe exercising your rights? Why on commercial for-profit use?
You just said it is for profit. It is for the monetary gains of another entity. I am merely traveling as a private citizen. I am not for hire. I am not transporting as a chauffeur. I do not operate a jitney. I do not operate any type of Uber or Lyft or any type of service that is transporting one set of goods to another location. I merely am attempting to travel for private use to get from point A to point B and preferably back to point A.
We're talking with Keila Jackson, who always wants to get home at the end of her travels. Do you exercise your rights, Keila Jackson, in a car? What rights can you name? Name one right that you exercise, or more. One right that you exercise by car in getting from point A to point B. Can you name one?
The right to work, to have livelihood, the right to worship, going to church, coming back. Basically, those are the main two rights. The right to live, the right to purchase food, to go to the grocery store, the right to go to the laundromat, to wash my clothes, cleanliness. Those are basic rights.
And you're suggesting that you should be able to have the freedom to move from, let's say, your house to your church where you go to worship God. You have a right to go from your house on East 10th Street to your church without the government's permission. And are you saying that you can do that without a license? Is that what you're suggesting?
Based upon the information and the research that you have done and the statutes, yes, I have that right.
And are you hopeful that your dilemma and your sort of being stuck by state policy and poverty, are you confident that you can find a way out of this trap, this hole, Keila Jackson?
I'm always confident, and my faith and my hope provide a confidence that right will prevail. And in this case, we do have support. We have legislative support.
Thank you, Keila Jackson.
This is David Toulis, and that is a very intelligent young woman of color, as you can tell. And she's been making use of my material. That's why I've done all this research. David Toulis here, the author and creator of Transportation Administrative Notice. And it makes clear, as it has to the city government and to the county with Sheriff Jim Hammond, that there is a right. And so notice the rights that she has. And notice she's going to be, as she's suggesting, asking Judge Patey to do one of two things: either grant her through the Department of Safety by order a driver's license, restricted or not, even though she can't pay the fines and she's too poor to pay them, she has a right to travel, right? And so Judge Patey needs to recognize that right by granting her at least a restricted license, or write an agreed order, which is to say just an order that Keila Jackson will use as a badge, as a permit. And that order says that this person holding this paper has a right to travel the roads of this city and is hereby protected by this agreed order that recognizes a constitutionally guaranteed, God-given, unalienable, and inherent right that belongs to her because she's made in God's image. And by God's grace, she's someone who worships him and thanks him for all of her health and her ability and her many gifts to be a productive person. But she's under a civil death sentence because of what? Why? Well, we have a deep state in Tennessee, and in fact, it's almost impossible to see. I meet people constantly who don't see it. They can't see it. And my job here as a member of the press is to expose it and expose the fissures in the structure that hold it up. Those fissures are inconsistencies in practice and law. And those are ones that I'm crowbarring open. I'm expanding the space in those gaps so that people can come through. The first people to come through might be people like Keila Jackson, because that's what I try to do here as your host on the David Tula Show, is to help you and help people like you, especially since you are under the Dred Scott ruling. Yes, I know. You think, what do you mean Dred Scott? Wasn't that the ruling by Judge Roger Taney in the Supreme Court that upheld slavery in the South? And yes, if you go to Nuganomics.com, you can read a great little essay I wrote just the other day, in which Judge Taney says why Keila Jackson has to have a license to travel. Okay, he's defending slavery, and if you read this essay and hear what I say, quoting from him at Nuganomics.com, you'll understand why the deep state is there and why it's impossible to see. It's impossible to see because it operates as a matter of custom and routine, and we are trained to accept it. And in defending slavery, he says essentially that those who are black people who are without a pass shall be stopped and seized. Okay, that's what, if you're a black person in the South and you don't have a pass, meaning a license by your master, you are subject to arrest. Does that sound familiar? Does Mayor Andy Burke think that sounds familiar? Black people in his town, whom he has authority to protect by obeying Title 55, are all subject to Dred Scott. So Andy Burke, the question is, will you enforce Dred Scott tomorrow? Or will you stop the enforcement of Dred Scott by opening up the city and saying, we're going to obey Title 55. We're in the Tennessee Code. We're going to obey U.S. Code Title 49, the Transportation Code out of Washington, which is controlling. By the way, it is controlling. And all the definitions out of Washington control state definitions. And you heard just a minute ago from Keila Jackson. She's trying to get a driver's license, and she's in one of Joseph Heller's catch-22s out of his novel. Here's a quote from Judge Roger Taney. There's also a provision, he says, by which any Negro, Indian, or mulatto servant who was found wandering out of the town or place to which he belonged without a written pass, such as is therein described, was made liable to be seized by anyone and taken before the next authority to be examined and delivered up to his master, who was required to pay the charge which had accrued thereby. And a subsequent section of the same law, where she's talking about Connecticut law here, of the same law provides that if any free Negro shall travel without such pass and shall be stopped, seized, or taken up, he shall pay all charges arising thereby. So he's talking about the payment when a black person is arrested without a driver's license, okay, effectively. He goes on to say further down, he says, why we can't have black people on the road without a license. Okay, here's something that Judge Roger Taney says, and Andy Burke, our mayor, upholds. Mayor Andy Burke, who has received transportation administrative notice from David Toulis, this went through the city council, is upholding Dred Scott of 1856, I think it was 1856 or 58. Taney goes on to say it would give, regulations which they consider to be necessary for their own safety. It would give to persons of the Negro race who were recognized as citizens of any one state of the Union the right to enter every other state whenever they please. Okay, here, why we can't have manumission of slaves, because blacks in one state would be able to travel freely to another, which was a slave state. So you can't have one non-slave state next to a slave state. Recognized as citizens in any one state of the Union the right to enter every other state whenever they pleased, singly or in companies, without pass or passport, and without obstruction, to sojourn there as long as they pleased, to go where they pleased at every hour of the day, at night, without molestation. So he's objecting to the idea of there being free blacks in one state, because that means by implication that they're free in the other state. And if they're free in a slave state, then they're there without a pass, right? You see how that works? They're without pass or passport and without obstruction. They can move freely. Heaven forbid that Keila Jackson should be able to move freely in Andy Burke's Chattanooga, right? Andy Burke, you please open up the city. Obey the law, Mr. Burke, unless they committed some crime or violation of law for which a white man would be punished and would give them now here, Roger Taney, he was talking about if blacks were free, here's what they could do. Think about that. Think about blacks being free. Would give them the full liberty of speech in public and in private upon all subjects upon which its own citizens might speak, or hold public meetings upon political affairs, and to keep and carry arms wherever they went. So we can't have free blacks because they would be able to go to speech events, right? They would be able to take part in political affairs and have free movement. We cannot have Keila Jackson in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the year of our Lord, 2018, be free to move without a badge of ownership, right? The badge of ownership being the magical piece of plastic, the driver license. And Keila Jackson is telling you something, you, my listener. She's telling you that she is free. She is free to go to church without state's permission. She is free to take care of her necessaries, her soap, her food. She is free to earn a living without begging the master's permission. That's what she's saying. You know, that's not revolutionary. That's counter-revolutionary, because the revolution has been in effect since the war, since before the war, a revolution against the law and against liberty. And particularly, Keila Jackson is the victim. She is the victim, and she is saying she is free. Go to Facebook. Please go to Facebook and see her interview with me. It's a 2-minute interview making the same point. She is remarkably eloquent. David Toulis, our Facebook page, Nuke Radio. And look at the interview with Keila Jackson. It's me in my blue suit and a young lady. David Toulis.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Joshua Rhodes, a former McMinn County detective, was charged with 10 felony counts of wire fraud, 1 count of aggravated identity theft. The indictment claims he stole the identity of a suspect in order to siphon money from local financial institutions. Rhodes was fired from the sheriff's office in 2016. The Chattanooga Fire Department says 2 people were aboard a Carta bus when it ran off the road. A driver and driving instructor were both inside when the bus veered to the right and hit a power pole on Greenwood Road. Neither of the 2 were hurt. And a grand jury tour of the Hamilton County Jail was eye-opening, according to a report. A quote from the report says, "What immediately became apparent was the overcrowding of the jail. The inmates need to be kept occupied. It seems they have way too much time on their hands, which leads to trouble within the jail." The report adds the staff was competent, dedicated, and humane. Val St. John for Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford of Fort Payne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne.com.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric, you're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nuga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships, as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks, even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way, the Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that in.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Except partly sunny skies out there through your afternoon. An isolated shower storm will pop up. Highs upper 80s. Tonight, any showers quickly diminishing. Lows near 70. For Friday, mostly sunny, hot, mainly dry. Highs up around 90. Could see a late shower storm Saturday. Highs upper 80s. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Source Gene 12, Chief Meteorologist, Matt Report.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I will be behind a stack of law books unless you come and talk with me tonight at 10 North Shore. The Starbucks restaurant we're having our gang, we're having our sports show live at the Starbucks. It's called the Gridiron Gang Show. Here it is, Starbucks 10 North, and I'll be there with my laptop. But if you come by and chat with me, I would be glad to save myself from the tedium of writing another legal analysis, defending our liberties and helping to keep officials hands in their own pockets. Now, speaking of hands, some hands are never in the pocket. They're always in plain air or in the cool breeze of a fan running in the painter's studio. And there's a painter I want you to hear something about. Her name is Gay Arthur, and she's going to be at In-Town Gallery. Well, she's always at In-Town Gallery of late, but she's going to be having a show, an exhibit that opens on Friday. Now, Gay, tell my listener a little bit about what's in view. You're not far from the Starbucks where I'll be tonight, but tomorrow night there's a kind of a shindig and a big event where you're kind of in the spotlight. What is going on, and what is my listener going to see on the walls at In-Town?
Well, In-Town has a tradition of every first Friday they feature one of the artists that's part of a cooperative that's been together for 45 years. My particular month is the month of September, and my opening is at between 5 and 8 o'clock with the hors d'oeuvres and whatever, little snacks, featuring my work, which is entitled The Fabric of Our Lives. And what that means to me and to anybody else is how fabrics have touched our lives as we've grown up. If we remember days when we were in the kitchen with Grandma while she was making cookies and she had this bright, colorful apron on, that is a memory that is hopefully held close to your heart. And seeing an old pair of boots that maybe somebody in your family wore, or blue jeans hanging on the line that family members have worn as they were toiling in the fields or whatever. I think it brings and strikes a core with the viewer to cause them to reflect on the many things that touch their lives in the way of textiles. It's been my experience that nostalgia is not overrated at all. That we do love to look back and remember fondly the things that have woven into our lives.
Well, so when you say that your show is about textiles, I kind of pull back from that because that just sounds very abstract. But what you're really saying is that if your show focuses on things that my listener wears, the wearing of things, and they're almost always of what cotton or fabric. They're woven. They're of long strings put together colorfully, and you wear these things. Clothing is highly significant. If we all stood about naked, we would all be very, very bored and boring, but we're all wearing our clothing. So our clothing, the things we wear, the things that we cover ourselves with, cover as much as they show, right? Okay.
Right. Well, also there's a couple quilts in the show because we wrap ourselves in the comfort of those quilts that have been handmade by somebody special in the family. I've always been attracted to things of yesteryear and things of obsolescence. One of the most interesting things I ever did for the gallery was when did a series on old objects like rotary telephones and typewriters and things, phone booths, things that we don't use anymore, but that are part of our past. I was approached by someone to do a commission of a typewriter. I had done a Corona typewriter, and she wanted to know if I could do the one that her father typed on, and his name was Luther Massengill. So that was a very special honor for me to paint Luther Massengill's typewriter. And in it, I have the exact thing that he was typing on the day that he passed. So I will have some prints of that available also at the gallery.
Let me ask you a question. We're talking with Gay Arthur, a painter whose work is starting. Well, her work is at In-Town Gallery, but there's a presentation tonight or Friday night, a special presentation, a special showing of her work. What was Luther Massengill writing on the day he died? What was in the platen of that typewriter?
Well, it was just a typical day that he was writing about things and events for the radio station. There's television stations. So you'll have to come down and look at it yourself. I don't have it memorized.
You don't memorize?
I can't remember specifics other
well,
than
let me ask you this. Does your painting...
The Lost Dog over on Fifth Avenue or whatever.
Okay. Right. But does your painting have... Can my listener come and view at your show on Friday, view the words on the piece of paper, or is it not?
Yes, they can.
Wow.
They can see that. And I've also one of my paintings that's on the wall is an American flag that's folded in a triangle being given to a widow. And all you see are the hands, the juncture of the two triangles coming in to make the third triangle. The triangle of the Marine's hands with the gloves, and the triangle of the flag, and then the triangle of the widow's hands on top and bottom of the flag. And the American flag has meant a lot to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons.
And that, just by the way, for the listener, we're talking with Gay Arthur, and you can see this beautiful painting at gayarthur.com. That's GAYARTHUR.com. And so what we're seeing is, so the one point of the flag is aimed sort of at the viewer on the left side. So again, just since I have it here on, there are two sets of hands.
Well, you see the stars and the stripes. The stripes are on the one side, and then the stars are folded, and you can see the whole aspect of, the different aspects of the flag. All three colors are displayed. I just find it touching. These days of turmoil in our society, I tend to go patriotic because I think we live in a wonderful country, and no matter what's going on.
And that the picture is like a super close crop. Either the gloved hands, we know what the hands are. We know whose they are.
Yes.
Right. Clearly,
and they represent whatever they represent to the viewer. some people see it one way and some people will see it another.
Well, wait a minute.
On their point of view,
Wait a
their
minute.
frame of reference.
What do you mean by that? Because the hands that are gloved
Well,
are the soldier's hands, right?
To somebody who's has lost a loved one, it means one thing, and then to someone else who's maybe against the war, it might mean something else. It could be political. I don't know. I'm not making any judgments or anything like that. That's what art's about. It's what you feel when you look at the art and what emotions they bring up in you.
And yet the image is the same for whomever looks at it. It's the same image, but the meaning of it, the sense, the sentiment, even the emotion, if there is emotion, is evoked by those by the two sets of hands and the flag in the middle with the blue, the pentacles and the red and white stripes. And that's a square painting. Am I looking at the whole thing here on your website?
And I haven't. No, it's not. It's 10 by 20. It's a rather small painting. I wanted to do a small painting that had a larger impact. And I do have a couple of square paintings. One is just a square with a window in the middle of it with a white curtain with one of those old kind of dish raggy kind of striped blue trim on it. And it's just blowing in the wind. And it could, that could it conjures up all sorts of memories for me. But I want the viewer to go there and see what it brings in for them.
Well, Kay Arthur, say something to my listener about your background. Your calling as an artist is a second calling. What did you do before in your life?
For about 40 years, I was a dental hygienist. I retired in 2000 and went back to UTC to their fine arts program and got a bachelor's degree in painting and drawing, and still did some temporary work as a dental office from time to time. And then a few years after I was out of school, I ended up joining the In-Town Gallery. So that it's a wonderful place to be able to display your art year-round. And they keep you hopping because every 6 months you're required to bring in new work. So they don't let you just have to continually hone your craft.
Well, that seems like a very light burden. Every 6 months you have to bring in one new work every 6 months. That's not much work at all.
No. You have to bring minimum of 3.
Okay. So you have to bring a work in the sense you're using their work. It's not just one painting. It's a collection.
No. You have to bring you have to bring all new paintings in. Yes. And that's anywhere from right now with the number of, I think we have 24 2D artists. So they each have anywhere from 6 to 9 paintings in the gallery, a piece.
Now you're also, as a painter, you're also a sketchist. You can probably make my listener's portrait if he were sitting in front of you or she was sitting in her favorite dress in front of you. You can make a sketch of the whole person or the face in 20 minutes. Is that right? You can do that?
I don't know. I mean, well, I've taken life drawing classes, and I know I've done sketching with charcoal and things like that. But I don't know. I don't profess to be a portrait specialist.
But you do. Well, you can.
Drawing the figure is the best practice you can do as an artist.
And the hardest, the face and the body are the hardest things to present, right?
Yeah. But also abstract is not so easy either because you have to also have the qualities in the painting that draw your viewer in. It's not just a bunch of colors thrown on the canvas.
So, no, this is something new for me.
Something that brings you in. So I tend to be a representational artist, but if you look up closely at my work, there's a lot of palette knife, and it's not photo perfect.
It's not photorealistic.
Not photorealistic at all. People say, "Oh, it looks just like a photograph." Well, when you get close, you can see that I've used rubber instruments to scrape the paint. I've used my palette knives, I've used forks, I've used all sorts of things to add texture. So there's a lot of texture in my work.
Now, one of your paintings is it's a blank wall, a concrete wall, very unadorned wall, like on the side of a warehouse. But in the middle of this painting, as represented on your website, there's an open window, maybe with no glass.
That's what I was just talking about.
Is that okay? That's a curtain. Looks like
that's a curtain.
Okay. Yeah. And then so you have a lot of things that you present, and some landscapes. Gay
Yes,
Arthur?
I've done landscapes. I've not too many. I've done some local ones with Greenway Farm, and but I mostly do things associated with nostalgia. I did a series on the antique toys that are no longer around. I did a series on abandoned automobiles, 49 Studebaker for one, and 1937 Ford fire truck, and then I've done Wheel and Foundry, U.S. Pipe, Standard Coosa Thatcher, a lot of different buildings in the area that have been in the process or have been demolished.
Are you doing that for historical reasons, or is there a beauty in a plant's building?
I think all buildings and houses, all those things have meaning to people in their lives. They've been a place of employment. If it's a church, a place of worship, they touch people's lives. They're full of stories, and I wanted to capture them and preserve them in paint before they're gone, before they're flattened to the ground.
So there's an interest apart from your artistic interest in sort of a preservationist, record-keeping purpose.
Yes,
Gay
yes,
Arthur.
Yes.
And I noticed,
and also as I get older, I recognize that my art spoke to me and told me that I had some aging issues to deal with. So I can find beauty in these rusty, peeling paint walls, and yet I criticize myself for my own aging process.
Well, listen,
so it's a good lesson.
I have a word now with my guy listener, Gay Arthur. He's overly busy. He doesn't make time for art. He doesn't make time for music, except for maybe some pop or some country. He's not very civilized, but I think he's open to a suggestion from you. Why, and here's the question, why should he come to an in-town gallery event like this with his wife? How can he make it something for her and for him as a couple? But then number two, how can he come and learn something in the way of looking? How can he come to your event and learn just a tiny bit about seeing and using his eyes?
Well, for one thing, there are 34 of us in the gallery in all different media. So there are many things that appeal, especially to the male, which is the wood. We have a lot of woodworkers. We have some wood turners that do beautiful work. And at these events, the artists are usually present. So he can learn from the artists themselves. We have a painter who does work in beeswax or in caustic work. And people are fascinated with how she takes the beeswax and applies it to the surface, causing all sorts of wonderful textures and depths to her work. That's Nadine Koski. And then we have a metal workers who take old shovels and use a prism laser beam cutter, Prisma cutter, to put all sorts of designs in it. And that's Denise Bizot. So, and then we have oil painters and watercolorists, and we have stained glass artists and jewelry, always a big hit with the women, and some beautiful jewelry by 4 very talented jewelers. So there's something for everyone. My work greets you as you come in, and then if that's, you can move on and go up to the back and get yourself a little glass of wine and an appetizer and walk through the gallery and be totally, have your feast with your eyes.
Well, I think that's a great phrase, Gay Arthur. When you come into a gallery like In Town or any other here in Chattanooga, there's a feast. You are being trained by the painter, and you're the painter to look, right? And so when my listener looks at the Greenway Farm over a past picture, just kind of a nondescript scene that he might pass on a canoe trip with a son, it really is beautiful because that's the way it really is. And there's a deer there. Is that right? Am I looking at a deer?
No, there's no deer in
Okay,
there.
it's just a little object that looks without my glasses on looks like a deer, but it's
Okay,
just
I didn't put a deer in there.
Just a simple.
You see one, that's cool.
Well, my eyes maybe are too good here, but you're teaching.
That's all right.
You're teaching the listener, Gay, to look and use his eyes, and it always is something. When you come back from a gallery visit like that, you're always better for it because you're seeing new things and you're training yourself, at least for that hour, how to look, because the artist is there. There is an instructive purpose in art. There are higher causes, of course, in art, but teaching the eye to
all of our
look.
artists will have name tags around their neck with their names on them, so you can, or ask any artist that has a name tag on and say, "Oh, I really love this abstract here. I'd love to meet the artist," and we can go find them for you. And so you can ask the artist yourself the question. When there's that personal touch and contact with the artist, it makes such a difference, and it helps make them want to take the work home with them, because they've made the connection with the artist, and it's personal. And that's what we want. We want our art to find new homes and a place that people, when they walk by, it brings them great joy.
Gay Arthur, thanks for joining us today on the David Tulis Show.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope you have fun at your Starbucks thing.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Look forward on Friday. Bye. This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Gay Arthur. The event is at In Town Gallery. It's on Friday. And as the point I'm trying to get across in my discussions with this fine painter are that her work is training for the eye. It's training the eye to see new things. And you stop and you look and you soak in the color and seeing even in mundane things like curtains fluttering outside of a wall in a breeze, even mundane things like that, you suddenly realize that they can even be holy. There's something right and true, and there's a connection with the Creator in these things. And make sure that you take. She didn't say that this painting would be there, but the one with the flag and the two sets of hands, one set of hands gloved, meaning that of the Marine, and the hands on the left side, evidently the survivor, the widow perhaps, of the deceased soldier. And this is David Tulis. We are live every day here at Nougat Radio, and I do thank you for giving me just a couple minutes of your time. We are Nougat Radio, local economy, and the free market. And I wanted to make sure that you tune in on Saturday to a great little show we have called Get You Covered, or Got You Covered. It's about building a house, repairing a house, investing in a house, and it's every Saturday here at Nougat Radio, 10 o'clock with Scott Schrader. And my name is David Tulis, and I do plan to be at the Starbucks at 10 North this evening. I'm thinking what I might be doing on my Thursdays, if I can get my act together, is to attend the Chattanooga Police Academy. I'm thinking that might be a good thing to do to make me more compassionate, maybe less critical of our police department here in Chattanooga. It would be a good thing for me to hear from the inside for night after night after night on Thursdays, what they do, how they do it, including a whole night on use of force, a whole night on SWAT. I would learn a lot from that. So that Thursday, I just need to get the application. And David Tulis, and the number to call tomorrow is 800-894-49, brought to you by Nouganomics.com, the website for the people who matter. It's a small group, and they matter. Nouganomics, VS versus the deep state.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Joshua Rhodes, a former McMinn County detective, was charged with 10 felony counts of wire fraud, 1 count of aggravated identity theft. The indictment claims he stole the identity of a suspect in order to siphon money from local financial institutions. Rhodes was fired from the sheriff's office